And this is a special one. So, welcome to the Foundations of Global Health and our special presentation in conjunction with International Education Week, where we have this presentation as the 7th annual Dr. Mani Model Mani presentation for global health. Next slide. In honor of International Education Week, we like to have a special message for our events, and so I'm going to read that message if you don't mind. Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright captured the enduring spirit of International Education Week. She said, "When we open our doors, our academic institutions, and our mind to different cultures and ideas, we learn to recognize commonalities where once there were only differences, and we establish respect where once there was only fear. This mutual understanding is what makes international education an effective incubator for creating long-lasting global alliances." Statespeople like Madeleine Albright, an American diplomat who was the first woman to serve as the United States Secretary of State and was an immigrant from Czechoslovakia, understood that fear and distrust can manifest itself naturally within the human condition, while a simple antidote to that fear and distrust of others is international educational exchange, which fosters familiarity, friendship, and fraternity. International Education Week doesn't just celebrate lofty ideals of elevated humanity. Rather, International Education Week highlights very practical, very real, and tangible ways all of us are better humans, and how our lives are enriched by KUMC welcoming international students, scholars, and visitors to our campus, and by our community members traveling internationally to engage and collaborate with university partners around the world. Here at KUMC, we know very well how much our international friends and colleagues contribute to our community, and how grateful we are that they choose to work, study, and/or do research here at KUMC. We know the value of individuals from around the world who come to the U.S. and how their presence in America contribute even more profoundly than the billions they contribute yearly to higher education. NAFSA's latest analysis of the contribution of international students studying at U.S. colleges and universities estimates that they contribute $42.9 billion to the U.S. economy, $230.8 million in Kansas alone. International Education Week is a week for celebration, a celebration of diverse cultures, languages, people, and the relationships and connections we have forged here and across oceans and continents. This is a time to celebrate our friendships and to celebrate in our collective and individual accomplishments. We celebrate the journey of those who come to KUMC, their presence and their immense contributions that enhance our lives every single day. International students, researchers, and employees are part of the heart of our institution and are woven into the beautiful tapestry of American higher education and American society. We celebrate our faculty, researchers, and administrators who approach international exchange and global health with attitudes and efforts that reflect humility, inquisitiveness, and understanding. We celebrate our nearly 100 learners who seek to understand other healthcare systems, languages, and cultures through virtual and experiential learning opportunities. We celebrate our over 300 faculty who present at international conferences, who develop educational exchange opportunities, and who innovate and elevate healthcare education and patient care with international partners around the world. We celebrate our international partners who engage with our KUMC community and host our learners and make deep learning experiences possible. Each one of us are part of international exchange because we are part of the KUMC community. IEW is about all of us as we exchange, listen, interact, and connect together. So happy International Education Week. Next slide. I'm going to pass the microphone now over to Dr. Kessler, who will explain why this presentation is in honor of Dr. Mani Mani.
Thank you, Kimberly. It is an honor to be able to recognize one of our most beloved founding fathers in global health here at KUMC. That's Dr. Mani Model Mani. And I'm sure many of you in the audience, I hope, have had a chance to interact with Dr. Mani, but we want to really continue to educate our community on the legacy. Um, so he was a professor in the Department of Plastic Surgery, and he was a mentor to so many students, staff, faculty at KUMC and around the world. And he also became a renowned burn specialist, which you'll see on the coming slide. So next slide, Alexa. So a little bit about Dr. Mani's journey. Really, we need to credit Dr. David Robinson, our Robinson building, the physician that is named after. He spent time at Christian Medical College in Vellore, India. And we can really credit him for recognizing Dr. Mani Mani as a talented young physician there. And he encouraged and recruited him to come and do his residency at KUMC. And then he was successful in convincing Dr. Mani Mani to stay and become faculty as a Jayhawk here. Dr. Mani went on to be the director of the Burn Center at KUMC and is really credited with establishing burn protocols across our state of Kansas. So he's pictured with Dr. Robinson in that middle picture. And the top right picture, he's with his wife, Mrs. Rebecca Mani, and his beloved 1966 Mustang that many of us heard about if we didn't see directly. Next slide. Some of these photos capture the work that Dr. Mani did around the world. He was really dedicated to building the local capacity for burn care and spent significant amount of time in Kyrgyzstan, Malaysia, Australia, India, among other countries. And he was very dedicated to the principle that our work had to be sustainable. And so he would coach and work with clinical teams on using only the supplies that they had available there. And that was a principle he challenged all of us to do and think about in our global health work. Next slide. So Dr. Mani is pictured here, and we credit with him, I think, inspired by his mentored relationship with Dr. Robinson. He created and worked closely with OIP to develop these bi-directional exchange learning opportunities. So the Robinson Manny Scholars Program provided the opportunity for learners at KUMC to do a rotation or an international educational exchange at the Christian Medical College in Vellore. And he was really dedicated to interdisciplinary work. So this was not excluded to just medical students. This was open, I believe, for multiple learners. And the Model Scholars Program was where we gave the opportunity to junior faculty at CMC in Vellore to come and spend, I believe, a semester at KUMC and work with researchers to develop their research skills and to engage in collaborative research. So these are two opportunities that have really strengthened our learning capacity and global exchange in honor and thanks to Dr. Mani. Next slide. This is a picture of the entrance of CMC, Christian Medical College in Vellore, India. And Dr. Mani's philosophy, it was really inspired by the teachings of this setting. And he would tell us how when you walked through the halls, there was a prominent place where this message was inscribed. Go to the people, live among them, learn from them, and love them. Start with what they know, build on what they have. But of the best leaders, when their task is accomplished, the people will remark, we've done it ourselves. And so I think he inspires us and our work in global health here to embrace this philosophy and the approach that we take in global health. And next slide. I think in closing, just to say this is in loving memory, the talk we give today in recognition of Dr. and Mrs. Mani. So you see this really lovely picture of them here. Dr. Mani, his wife, Mrs. Rebecca Mani, was a dedicated and resourceful dietitian who did excellent work in her own right. And together they were partners on many of these endeavors in global health. So we honor both of them today. And it was great pleasure that we'll have our talk from Dr. Michelle Cochran. And I will turn it back to Kimberly.
Thank you so much for that tribute to Dr. Mani Mani and his dedication to global health. And now I have the pleasure of introducing you to Dr. Michelle Cochran, who is our featured speaker. Dr. Cochran was chosen for today because she exemplifies the approach and attitudes that are ideal when engaging in global health and international educational exchange with international partners. So Dr. Michelle Cochran, she is a DNP registered nurse and clinical assistant professor at the University of Kansas Medical Center, where she has played a pivotal role in developing virtual international partnerships from pandemic necessitated solutions and transitioning to strategic institutional assets. Dr. Cochran specializes in developing faculty-centered collaborative online international learning or COIL frameworks that prioritize sustainable, equitable, global alliances. Her work has engaged students through innovative virtual programming that eliminates socioeconomic barriers while fostering authentic cultural exchange. Dr. Cochran's approach emphasizes faculty relationship building as the foundation for lasting international collaborations, resulting in ongoing professional opportunities and measurable institutional outcomes. And all of this is very true about Dr. Cochran, and that's why it's my pleasure to have her present some of her approaches and partnerships here today. Thank you, Dr. Cochran.
Thank you. It's an honor to be speaking. Uh, I those of us that knew Dr. Mani understood his passion and his philosophy for international exchange. So while I was creating this, I kept him in mind, knowing that this would fit within his philosophy. So today I'm going to share how virtual international partnerships have evolved from a pandemic necessity to a strategic institutional aspect, and one that can actually enhance equity, sustainability, and impact in ways that traditional models alone cannot achieve. Next slide, please. We've had the introduction. I'm Michelle Cochran, and I am a faculty member at the School of Nursing. Next slide. I do want to acknowledge that this presentation builds upon a previous collaborative work that I developed with Kimberly Conley, the director of OIP, and in general, the OIP partnership and everyone in that department. Has been very supportive in the virtual international exchanges. So the insights today really are a collective and collaborative effort for everyone involved with the Office of International Programs and International Exchanges. So those partnerships shape the insights of the virtual international programs. Next slide, please. So, like many of you, 2020 forced us to ask, how do we maintain our international partnerships when we can't travel? By 2021, we started asking a different question. What if virtual engagement isn't just a substitute? What if it is actually better at some things? What if we could solve longstanding problems with equity and access and sustainability that we accepted that was just inevitable in traditional programs? Next slide. I do want to just mention that if you have questions, please put them in the chat. There'll be a Q&A at the end because I would like to make sure that you're getting out of this presentation what it is you came to hear. Next slide, please. So the difference between an emergency solution and a strategic asset comes down to intentionality. During the pandemic, we had an emergency solution to go online and make our connections online. And emergency solutions are reactive and considered temporary. And we were trying to preserve what we already had. But strategic assets are intentional and sustainable, and they create value that we couldn't access before. So today, I'm going to show you how we made that shift here at the Medical Center and within the School of Nursing, and provide you with the frameworks that we worked within to develop sustainable relationships. Next slide, please. Before I show you what we built, I do want to share the foundational framework called Fair Trade Learning. And this became even more critical in virtual spaces where power imbalances can be invisible. I used to think power disappeared because we were on Zoom, we were all on the same equal square, we weren't in hierarchical table assignments. But actually, as I considered it further, the virtual spaces can make the power imbalances also invisible because you don't listen, you can't read the body language, you can't see the differences in internet accessibility and cost or what it took people to get to that place. So the framework I'm going to show you, the Fair Trade Learning, it prioritizes relationship reciprocity, excuse me, and it asks us to examine who benefits, who has a voice, and whether we're truly partnering or simply extracting value from each other's communities. Next, please. Virtual partnerships don't eliminate the power differentials. They actually, as I said, could hide some of them. When we're not physically present, we can overlook things like time zone, which dominates the meeting schedules, whose students can afford the technology, and the various things that go into meetings. So fair trade learning forces us to name and address the dynamics explicitly. Next. I'm going to show you the Fair Trade Learning rubric. It's about 4 pages. There's a link here, and I also put a link at the very beginning of the chat. I don't know if that needs to be reset or copied and put in again. But as we go through these, I will invite you to think about your current international partnerships and where it falls on the continuum. And this is an assessment we do with our own programs. There is an intentionality in meeting the fair trade practices and making it a core value. Next. So the beginning of the rubric, as you can see, there's a common purpose. And these were made for place-based visits. So you can see some of them pertain more to place-based, but we're talking about the various factors that can lead to fair trade learning and the continuum that it's on: entry, intermediate, advanced, and ideal. And I'll go through each of these and highlight some of the ones that our programs have met. But for the first one, common purpose, the virtual meetings actually helped lower boundaries and barriers that we had for frequent collaboration. And when we would work on manuscripts or grants together, meeting virtually actually enhances common purpose. Next. Some parts of the rubric, as I said, are for site visits, but those that are for place-based visits, the virtual engagement can often lay the foundation for the visits. So we still use the same rubric and ask ourselves where we're at on this rubric towards the ideal. And the virtual engagement can help lay a foundation. And I'll talk about that later in this presentation. And as I said, I'll highlight some of our programs and the various rubric aspects. Next, please. So the rubric goes through other dimensions such as learning integration, economic and environmental impacts, transparency, and partnership sustainability. And the whole framework, again, is in this link at the bottom of this slide, and you can access it online. Next slide, please. I do want to show the two things that are starred, which I feel like we do well with virtual engagement, and that is clarity of commitment. And this is where virtual engagement has a strategic advantage. We can create partnership compatibility in very low stakes environments, like virtual projects, virtual meetings. And once the foundational aspects of meeting together and working together are established, then you can begin to commit significant resources on both ends. We can clarify mutual expectations through regular video meetings, Zoom meetings, and calls rather than actually going to the site for the first time you meet. So the other thing this does is we focus on faculty-driven models, where faculty and faculty too are meeting. The students are beneficiaries of that, but they rotate through, they graduate, and we want the faculty to faculty model to be what we sustain. Next, please. So once we understood where we wanted our partnerships to be in that fair trade framework, we asked, how can the virtual platforms actually help us advance to that goal? We developed 3 strategic responses: diverse virtual programming models, systematic preparation infrastructure, and relationship-based metrics. And let me show you what each one looks like in practice. Next. So rather than having one virtual program, we developed a portfolio of models, and each one of those serve a different strategic purpose. So the diversity let us engage different stakeholders, undergraduates, graduates, faculty, community partners, and then we would meet partners where they were in terms of resources and interest level. Next. We began during the pandemic with a collaborative online international learning, which is called COIL, and it was a virtual international classroom exchange. We had undergraduate collaborations. We ran it like a virtual conference. There was a total of about 180 students. We worked with Moy University, and we had 3 2-hour conference days where the students met and they presented ways that COVID impacted them. That was the first year. And you can see some of the titles. And then year 2, they impact different social determinants of health. And this approach brought students and professors together across the culture to learn, discuss, and collaborate as within a class. And our undergraduate COIL collaborations, as I said, was about 180. It could take up to 200 across 3 different institutions. We did this with CMC in India as well. And if you look at the structure, there's 3 2-hour conference days, the presentations with breakout discussions. So they weren't Zoom lectures where it was passive. It was designed by the faculty with lots of meetings. This is the faculty, one of the faculty meetings, which I tried to get a picture where we were all very serious because we were doing serious work, but we had a lot of fun. I didn't have any pictures of us working. We did work hard, but we also had a lot of fun. So it was designed by the faculty partners over numerous meetings because it's the first time we did it. But this is what fair trade looks like operationally. There's an equal intellectual contribution from both sides, and there's bilateral learning. Next. So, what did the students gain? Well, listen to what they emphasized. Not just knowledge about other healthcare systems, but the recognition of a shared human experience across cultures. And one student said, as you can see, the ability to get as close to the source as possible is essential. So they value the authentic voice, not us interpreting for them how good it is to know about global health. They enjoyed listening to it from an authentic source. And that's the strategic value you can't get from a textbook or even that traditional study abroad. Of those 180 students, I don't know how many could actually afford the time or the money to go and visit each other. Next slide, please. So back to our fair trade learning rubric, I just highlighted again, we looked at the common purpose and the host community program leadership as advanced. So if could go to a place-based visit, we're already at an advanced level with this partner. We had overlapping goals. Our partner faculty had equal design authority. It was evaluated as advanced, and it was our first attempt at a COIL collaboration. So to reach ideal, we will continue to move towards the long-term faculty collaboration. So that was several years ago, and we have solidified our relationship since then. Next, please. So we also moved to the graduate level collaboration. And this is one that we made with the goal of learning about midwifery in an international context. So at the graduate level, we could go deeper. We also had that experience under our belt already with undergrad. With this one, the student groups were mixed, and the MOI students and the KU students were in groups together and presented together. They met on their own in breakout rooms. They arranged their own schedules. The one student's perspective of the global perspective of midwifery has given me an understanding that will impact my practice and lead me to advocate for our profession. So notice that language. It had an impact on practice and advocacy, and that's professional formation. That's not just raising awareness of each other's culture. Next, please. We rated this as ideal because this was a situation, this is the category of host community program leadership, because this content was co-owned and co-taught, and both faculty teams had equal authority. Plus, we worked together to apply for and receive a grant from the Kansas African Center in Lawrence. So that allowed us to invest in that relationship. Next, please. One of the things, another model is when we have students learn about a country, learn about global health, and then speak to a practitioner in that country. This occurs in my graduate level course of global health, and it has a different strategic purpose. You connect individual students with international professionals for content or context of what they've learned. And I've highlighted some key words of what students said, but this did address a persistent challenge where most students don't have the time, the money to travel internationally, but they need exposure to diverse practice context. So the virtual infrastructure democratizes access. And as one student wrote here, it's one thing to learn about other countries in a textbook, but it adds another layer to hear about it from the lived experience perspective. So this is one of our international partners from Kenya, Dr. Evelyn Rotich, and all of the partners that we use are very congenial, very easy, and quite comfortable working with students. This has been a very successful, we've done this 3 years in a row. To the rubric, and can you go to the next slide, please? this rated advanced in theory of change because it explicitly builds intercultural skills and global civic understanding. And one of the international partners said, this was the partner, not the student. This is the best part of my job right now. I get to educate students about practice in my country. And when a partner can say that, you know that you're creating a bidirectional value. Next, please. The virtual practicums we had started during COVID when we couldn't go to not only international sites, we couldn't go to our clinical sites. So it served another purpose. We partnered with the Child Family Health International, and they have virtual practicums as a standard of their organization. We wanted this to establish compatibility and lay the groundwork for future in-person collaborations. That's why we dipped our toe into this. And one of the preceptors told me, we did this at both graduate and undergraduate levels. And one of the graduate preceptors, where the student worked with him on writing a grant, he said he appreciated it because the virtual practicums leveraged the student cognitive load, where he was able to focus on the work, get to know each other's work habits. And when they come to visit him and work, there's this culture shock that they have to get over. And he thinks if they do the virtual connection first and then visit, there's less of a cognitive load. So this is strategic sequencing. You can use virtual engagement to build the relationships and do pre-work before investing in the higher cost, higher risk, higher cognitive load travel programs. So the undergraduate, they went in groups, and the people in the other countries showed them their culture, took them to the food courts, to people's homes, taught them language skills. And the graduate level were aligned with preceptors and did work such as research, grant writing, or developed work that they wanted to do online. Next slide, please. In terms of the rubric and where it fell, we put this advanced in the learning integration because participants received systematic pre-work materials about community culture and health systems. And this addressed one of the future applications that I'll talk about later in this presentation about virtual onboarding for place-based visits. So students don't have to arrive on site unprepared and spend their time just getting oriented. Next, please. So another model is our faculty roundtables this addresses institutional sustainability. These are not student focused. We like, again, that model to be faculty to faculty, and they're about building faculty networks that generate research, curriculum sharing, professional opportunities, and solutions about different issues that nurses have and the various perspectives that are international perspectives. So instead of bilateral US-based discussions, you can see there's anywhere from 4 to 7 countries represented here, and that gives us a panel to discuss various nursing issues. Next, please. On the, again, Fair Trade Learning Continuum, we rated these as ideal or advanced on multiple dimensions. The clarity of commitment, partnerships, not program, and transparency, everyone participates as equals, and we have a clear expectation for participation with ongoing resource exchange. A lot of times those are offline, but when you meet people online, you can reach out and share resources and ask questions throughout the year. And this is what it looks like when virtual engagement actually becomes infrastructure, not just programming. Next, please. So we started with projects and kind of grew to some programs and then into the partnerships. And then when does it become a strategic asset? Assets grow and appreciate, and they generate returns over time. So let me pause here to emphasize the strategic shift. This traditional study abroad has programs that are time limited, student focused, and they can be transactional because there is a host country that you're visiting and they're hosting you. I think KU does a very good job of not making that so. I do feel like in general across the nation that could become a feeling of transactional relationships. But what we build here are partnerships when you begin virtually, and we have fortunately have OIP that have had long-term partnerships that we can take advantage of as well that they've put into their relationships. But the partnerships are ongoing and they engage multiple stakeholders and they're generative. So that's the difference between this being like an expense line and a strategic asset. Assets appreciate, they generate over time, and you get richer and deeper relationships through some of our virtual exchanges. Next, please. So, how do you measure partnership quality? I mean, that's it, right? If we're going to have a goal, you want to be able to say, how do we know we've met that goal? And if our goal is relationships, um, we need a measurement to say how are we doing, and that's not by counting the number of students that get engaged or sent abroad or the number of students. Again, we're focusing on the partners. So we have four indicators, and let me unpack these for you. Next, on a relationship measure, and I have the link to where I gather this information. Um, One of the best things that I think we're fortunate to have here, and that is a good measure of relationships, is there an institutional commitment? Are there formal agreements or MOUs that extend beyond individual faculty initiatives? Is there a recurring budget or a funding mechanism in place? Is there administrative support and a recognition that this fits into a strategic plan? Is there integration into department or institutional goals? And is there a commitment to bi-directional benefit? So that was not anything we had to build. Fortunately, as I said, at KU, through the Office of International Programs, that is in place, but you can develop it into being richer and deeper. Next, please. So we did collaborate quite a bit with our international partners that I met online 5 years ago. We have done posters together, we've presented together, we have had manuscripts developed. There are several things that are part of professional relationships that we were able to do online and in virtual settings. And some of them, unfortunately, I have not met and hopefully will. But this is where virtual engagement proved its true strategic value. It generated tangible professional outputs. We also had one of our faculty, the one here, Evelyn Rotich, became an affiliate faculty member at KU, which was beneficial to her because she could access our library, which is a much more robust library than she had access to. And there were other benefits to that too. But these are the kind of outcomes that institutional leaders value because they do align with our research and our educational missions. They're not just, this is how you get your next CEU. These align with our medical center missions. Next, please. Everything I've shown you so far is the visible piece, the programs, but of course, none of that happens without infrastructure. So this is where I think maybe I would say most institutions might struggle because you do a coil pilot and it goes well and you go, we can do this, but that doesn't scale into a larger infrastructure. Because that infrastructure doesn't ever get built. If you want to make it scaling it up, you have to provide an infrastructure. Next, please. So this is, some people might think this is boring. Other people like me thinks it's kind of nerdy cool. But you do have to do this. It's essential. This is the technological infrastructure, and every virtual platform has to be approved by your IT security office in both programs, who your international partner is as well. If students are involved, that's another level of security protocols you have to implement. And we learned the hard way that assuming everyone has Zoom doesn't always work. Assuming everybody has stable internet does not work. Assuming that partners have WhatsApp and not Microsoft Teams, you really have to get a commonality of communication with your infrastructure, and bringing those folks on board right away in your design program and not after is imperative. We can use Zoom, WhatsApp, Teams that they can give them a link for outside. And then we can also use email between faculty. We do not let students use email with each other. We let our students use Zoom. It's you can use that and not be identified. Next, please. When technology infrastructure works, it delivers the strategic advantage of real-time collaboration despite the distance, reduced cost, the ability to convene diverse expertise very quickly. If we need an expert in something, they can just come in on the Zoom call. They don't need to stay. They don't need to be part of all the meetings, but you can bring people in very quickly. But there's a less obvious benefit also. It does leverage your cognitive energy. Virtual meetings can be more focused than the in-person programs where students are managing culture shock, logistics, learning simultaneously, and faculty as well. But that's not a limitation. It's a feature that we can use strategically. Next, please. But I'm sitting here pumping this up, but I do want to be honest about the challenges. Time zones are real. Language differences are harder when you can't read the body language. Internet access can cost money in some countries. We had people who are paying by the minute. Work culture differences around hierarchy and directness don't necessarily appear on Zoom, and international security and legal offices will slow you down. All of it's manageable, but you have to plan for it, and that's why a systematic infrastructure makes a difference. Next, please. From these challenges, we develop the best practices. Regular meetings. You don't say, oh, let's just catch up sometime. They're booked and you have regular meetings. You engage your security office early. You share centralized shared documents under whatever format is approved by everyone. There's project management. We have the OIP staff is excellent at facilitating the management with international partners. And you establish a trust and respect through these small interactions before you have the big projects. We have clear shared goals and expectations in writing. Use virtual teams to access expertise in time rather than permanently committing. And you clarify upfront financial expectations. Who is going to pay for what? And what is this costing your international partner? You'd be surprised at what we don't even think about what may cost us. That they do have to pay for. So if you're planning in-person visits later, the virtual meetings build the foundation for much stronger on-site experiences, but you have to do this first part right. Next. So when we have infrastructure, it's not just about technology and logistics, it's also about our people. How do we prepare them? Our students, our partners, our faculty, how do we prepare them to engage effectively across cultures? We invest in systematic preparation resources. Let me tell you what that looks like. Next. We have the Foundation of Global Health series, where people can learn a language and of global health, and I don't mean the language in a foreign language, the language of global health, the way we talk about it. And it builds competencies across our institution when you attend lectures such as this and the Global Health Series. Next, please. We also were offered through OIP the Pillars of Global Health. I use this in my course, and it is something that helps build competencies for global health engagement. And I'll go into that a little bit detail next, please. There's 8 modules, and you can see how it builds competencies, and it provides a framework of thinking that if everyone takes this, which we have our partners and our students and our faculty, anyone that's going to be engaged in international exchange, the Office of International Programs has them complete these modules. Next. One of the things these modules do, but you can also have them separately, they can be purchased separately, are a couple of assessment tools, the Globe Smart Profile and Intercultural Effectiveness Scale. And this helps prepare people to understand how they interact with international partners. Next. Uh, you finish for the Globe Smart Profile, you finish a series of questions and it gives you a profile. I'm in the blue, and I invited Kimberly to be someone that I invited into my team, and it gives you different domains and where you fall on that dimension. The first one is independent versus interdependent, then direct versus indirect communication, tasks versus relationships. And then it gives you all these things on the left, the categories and advice that they tell you based on your personality style and the people that you're working with. What's some of the general advice? How do you give feedback? You can also add your countries that you're working with, and they will give you their general style of communicating. So you can see on mine, I'm middle of the road for the United States. But all the countries I work with are much further to the right, and I have to be aware of that when I'm communicating with them. Next. They also have a deep dive into the country that you're interested in and several very good pieces of information about establishing partnerships and relationships with folks from that country. Next. The other is international effectiveness scores, where the student, the partners, the faculty do a self-evaluation, and then it measures 3 competencies: continuous learning. I always hate to show this because as a faculty member, I kind of feel like continuous learning should be like off the charts, but I'm middle of the road. So I don't know. I have to explain that somehow. I have to find out how to explain that. But the others are interpersonal engagement and hardiness, which is your ability to handle stress when you're interacting across different cultures and differences. So these results show where you fall as compared to 10,000 other test takers, and then you develop a personal plan, which, cultural competency is never ending. So it shows that you can get a baseline and grow throughout your life. It shows your growth. You create your own plan. Next. So we've gone from pilots to policy, and everything I've shown you demonstrates how to move from emergency response to strategic asset. But there is a critical piece embedded into this work that survives beyond the current champions. And I'm going to show you how we do that. Next. We don't want this to be one person focused. So we do have a work group that meets and plans, and you can form a strategic work group that's not focused on the individual programs, but institutional systems. And you have to notice these priorities: virtual projects to vet compatible interest, onboarding, other programs that are going on and how the virtual component can be helped. So these are not COVID substitutes. They are actual programming that can support our virtual and place-based programs. This is an institutional infrastructure thinking. When these systems exist, any faculty member can engage internationally without reinventing the wheel, which is our purpose. Next, please. So the takeaways I want you to get from this is virtual is a strategic advantage, not compromise. It is infrastructure enables scale and sustainability, and invest in relationships. I actually learned that from the Office of International Programs because they had done that for years. And that is absolutely key to me. Priority partnerships generate professional products. And as you're doing that organically, you're investing in that relationship if you make sure that you have a fair trade partnership. Next, please. I also, can you do another slide, please? I also wanted there to be another main takeaway. I guess you did have the right slide up. I'm sorry. Before that, you don't have to go back, but just realize that the main takeaway that all the students have, and I think all the faculty and all the partners have as I talk to them, is that there is a shared identity and a human connection. So when you keep that humanity first and foremost, that virtual platform is a third space that allows for that environment to occur without hierarchy if you're aware of it. So it emphasizes the global community and the shared human experience. So that is what is important. And always, always remember to keep that first and foremost. Okay, now we'll go to the questions. What can I explain that I haven't, and what can I explain better that I need to do to for you all to understand? Are there any questions that are in the chat?
There are no questions in the chat, but we welcome our participants who, want to turn on their cameras or turn on their unmute themselves to ask a question. To please feel free to engage at this time. We can go over a little bit too if we'd like to, and if you have time. I would like to just reemphasize what a pleasure it is to have faculty like Dr. Cochran, who is so committed to free trade partnerships and understands the value of the relationships and the faculty being integral to those deep relationships and the ability, to have those fair trade partnerships.
I do have to state too that because of that commitment, all the programs I showed, especially the classroom discussion, we had Dr. Anthony Kovac's fund support and give the
Yes.
stipend to the international partners. So we never, take advantage of them volunteering the same way with the nursing roundtable. So that's important in the fair trade learning. And I think we're also fortunate to have an institution that promotes that.
Thank you. Dr. Kennedy, did you have a comment? I saw you turned your camera on.
I learned so much from your presentation, Michelle, and I really appreciated the deep dive into I think many of us thought that Zoom was like this equalizing platform, and you really, brought all the different layers of things that we need to really consider anytime we're doing any kind of virtual connection. So thank you for all of this. This was really tremendous.
Oh, thank you.
I want to recognize one of our partners who's been very active in our partnerships with School of Nursing, Dr. Rotish. It's so good to see you. Thank you for joining today.
I had you in my several times in my presentation today.
Yes. Oh, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
When I joined in, actually, I saw myself and you when you were in Montreal. It was awesome. Yeah, I missed part of your presentation, but I appreciate what it actually has brought about, and the collaboration that is very good, and the interaction that has led to further engagement with the students every year. It's really exciting.
Yes, I just listened to the interview with the students with Dr. Rotish, and this year I did not give them any structure on their questions. I said, why don't you just ask them anything you want? And I just love our partners. They are so genuine and they brought so much to those. I just learned a lot about, they would say, how do you get where you're going, or one even talked to a partner, where do you sleep at night when you're at the hospital all the time? And things that I would never have asked about the culture of it. And Dr. Rotish brought up things that I didn't know about Kenya. So if you let students lead with what they're wanting to know, it took me 2 years to understand that because I really was determined to teach them what they needed to teach, right? What I needed to know. But when I let them lead with the questions they wanted to know from those countries, it was amazing. I watched it with tears in my eyes. It was beautiful. Our partners are very genuine and our students can ask them anything.
Yeah, you and I talked about this. It really leads to that authentic relationship building and giving our students the opportunity to engage with an international partner truly from that human to human connection, which is so
Mhm.
important. Dr. Kovac, this is you fund this presentation and honor Dr. Mani Mani. Um, we hope that we, have speakers that honor his legacy. Do you have any comments or questions for Michelle at this time?
Hello. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Okay. Unfortunately, with my laptop, I cannot get the video to work. I do have our 4 international visitors here with me today, but I just can't get the video. But I would like to say thank you for Dr. Cochran and her presentation. One thing that always impressed me when I first learned about her work at the time of COVID, I thought, wow, what a wonderful idea. And when I think of a saying that will say, you get the most bang for your buck, so to
Mhm.
speak, is how she's very economically able to have meetings reaching people from all over the world. And so I really applaud her work and her effort and how we can learn from her. I think a thing she makes some very good points. I think even probably our international visitors can appreciate is that while we may have good Wi-Fi, internet, and it's supplied by the hospital and that, these individuals, even when I go, the Wi-Fi or internet is not as good, and they have to pay per minute. And I've really been uh, sensitized to that, so I appreciate her saying that. And I mean, I think that's something if we can help them do. But I think you've done a really excellent job. I will have to say, I first had an experience. It was maybe 5 some years ago. I was asked to give a talk to the nursing students, to senior nursing students, and the HEB building, and with that wide, big auditorium with multiple screens. There was also nursing students in Salina and a doctor in Africa. And it was wonderful. It had to take into account the time zones, but the fact that we could have this discussion, lecture internationally and even within the state, I think was wonderful. And I mean, I applaud the School of Nursing for all their efforts. But thank you once again, and it was a pleasure to hear your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Kovac. You've been on this since the beginning, focusing on education and supporting it. So I think we did these things, and then all of a sudden we realized you conglomerate everything we've done. It is a strategic asset. You're in the middle of doing the work, and you forget that it is part of your institution now, and can be spread. So I appreciate you always being there and supporting this from the beginning.
Yeah, I think Dr. Mani Mani would be very appreciative of this work. It fits directly in line with what he preached about international educational exchange and global health engagement. He was very committed to that, the reciprocity, the equality, and the collaborative approach. It was something that was really important to him. It had to be hard to be so advanced in your thinking and in your approach and try to move the needle along so slowly. I often thinking about that. I think we're at such a good spot now. he would just be thrilled at how far we've come over the last few years. Sarah, you're such a big part of this as well, Dr. Kessler, and obviously part of the work group. Do you have any closing thoughts before we sign off?
I think everyone has said it beautifully, especially that last note. I know Dr. Mani would be very proud of this work and how it's developed. And I love to see how we can scaffold on our partnerships, like in Kenya, for example, building on research partnerships, and now all this incredible educational work that you've expanded to other countries. And so that teamwork that we may not even be thinking about consciously, there's all these different ways. I think we can really think intentionally how we build on to the amazing work that our faculty here at KUMC are doing. So, Dr. Cochran, thank you so much. It was a perfect talk for this annual tribute to Dr. Mani.
And I think you bring up a good point. This is a snapshot. I mean, there's a lot of faculty doing good work that we just didn't have time to mention.
Yeah, great. Well, we hope to see everybody tomorrow evening at our annual International Education Week celebration. It's been just a really fun week with Dr. Kovacs, residents being here. Dr. Kovac, did you want to add one more thing? I saw your hand up. Sorry.
I just wanted to two things that I also enjoyed Dr. Cochran's talk. She talked about bi-directional. I think that is so important, even with the residents here. We go there, they come here. I think another thing I liked in your we are partners and we are equal to them, that we are there to learn also from them. How do they practice? And I guess a third thing with teamwork, here at the medical center, we work as teams. And so I like to envision that, well, like when I would go, not only as doctors, but we go with nurses, we go with allied health, and that as teams, they see us as teams and maybe also learn more about advanced practice, professionalism, nurses and allied health. But anyway, just those are things I took as really some good takeaways, and I thank you once again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
30 seconds to get. Bye. Okay.